Good evening, everyone. Welcome to I've Got a Bike, and we're going to talk about Richard Wright's solo record, "Wet Dream." Hey, and I'd like to introduce everybody tonight. Russell is this way. Hello, Russell.
Hello, everybody.
And Dan is this way. Hello, Dan.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, I'm gonna go over here and get this.
Russell is this way. Hello, Russell.
Get this YouTube muted, and here we go. Yeah. Let's say hello to Adam and C. Hi. You have to school me tonight. My Pink Floyd knowledge is limited. We will do our best to make that happen. Yeah, we are. So how's everybody doing tonight? You guys run into some rain tonight, this afternoon?
Yes,
I did.
I missed it, but
I'm just right above. I'm right above Record Crate.
Mm-hmm.
One state above you guys. Hello.
Yeah.
How you doing,
So I drove
Adam?
back from Wake Forest to Raleigh, not only in the rain, but with thunderstorms and lots of rain. And it was not fun with this vision, folks, that's for sure. Yeah. And so this is a record we're talking about. Richard Wright, his solo record. It's his first solo record called Wet Dream. Wright is mostly known or best known for being a member of Pink Floyd. Yeah. And I'm going to show this. I'm going to highlight me a little bit so I can show you guys a little more about the cover. Let you check it out.
It's very nice artwork.
It is. Yeah. This particular cover was designed by Hypnosis. And here's the inside.
Oh, nice. I haven't seen that yet. It's really cool looking.
Yeah. And then Dan's going to show us one that's a little different.
Yeah. So here's a demo copy where you can see it's got the track listings there and not for sale, and it's got a hype sticker. There it is.
I've seen that.
And then the cool thing, it's a white label instead of the standard red label. Most of the Columbia copies are. There's the regular red label Columbia, and there's the white label demo version that would have been shipped out to radio stations. So they can
as well as print publications and reviewers and it's just my phone. And
real quick, these are the headphones that I listened to it on YouTube with. That's all I've got, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I've got.
They're good for music. They sound really good for listening to tunes. Now, whoops, let me put them back on. Still waiting for a physical copy. I've noticed that it hovers around $30 for vinyl, and it's one of those ones where the CD's even more expensive than the vinyl. So.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people didn't buy the CD, and it's a blue CD there.
Yeah, that was on One Way. One Way was a great reissue label back in the day.
Is that from the 90s?
Yeah, I think that I know I bought it in the 90s. So
yeah,
I mean,
very cool.
It doesn't say when it came out. I mean, it says this 1978 Sony Music, but
there you go.
Clearly, this isn't from 78.
Yeah. Mine is not a promo copy or demo copy. It does have a cut corner, and we were talking a little bit last week after the show was over, and we were talking about the subject the record we were going to discuss, and Dan as well as myself have seen more of the white label promos with the timing strip than we have the ones that aren't. Now, how rare is it to find one that's not a cutout? That might be really rare because, folks, as good as this record is, it did not sell for Richard, and that's yeah. But we'll get into that a little bit.
Not a cutout.
Oh, you found one that's not a cutout?
Yeah, this is a straight up. This is one of the 3 copies ever sold actually in a store for full price. So
he was there in 1978 and bought it the day it hit the shelves.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, first listen. I don't know when I first listened. I think I happened to go somewhere and I saw the record for sale, and I have other copies. I just brought one out for tonight, and I know I have one with the timing strip. So it's white label promo. I'm not sure about the other copies, but I probably was at a used record store and I probably saw the little sticker that said Rick Wright or Richard Wright from Pink Floyd, and I was like, hey. And I probably picked it up and looked at it, and I don't know. Eventually, I ended up getting one, and it was, you're so used to listening to Pink Floyd and just listen to the solo stuff, and you're like, you wanted it to be the next Pink Floyd record you didn't hear, but in a way it was, in a way it wasn't. Yeah, and that's for sure. But I'm not the type of person that says, "Oh, it's got to grow on you," or you have to listen to it several times. But there were some songs that caught my ear, so I would go back and listen to it again. What about you guys?
So for me, again, yeah, anytime you're getting a solo album from someone in a band that you're very familiar with, you're really looking for another album from that band, sort of the B-sides that didn't make it or something. I did notice that the third track, Cat Cruise, is, I mean, that could have been on Momentary Lapse of Reason, which didn't come out for another, 15 years or so, or 10 years. I mean, that song is just so Pink Floyd. It's perfectly that way. But yeah, the rest of the album was, you could feel Pink Floyd in it, definitely Pink Floyd influenced. And I mean, how could it not be? But it was a different album, and I like that. It's one of the reasons I like David Gilmour's latest album, Rattle That Lock, so much, is it's so different yet so the same. It's that magic blend of something new while still feeling familiar. So,
And you, Russell?
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm a big fan of jazz rock and fusion, and there's a lot of jazz rock and fusion. And even a little, I think the last song is called Funky Doo. That's even going into some funk territory. And I think it's a great album. Richard Wright, his voice sounds great. There's a lot of instrumentals though. If you're not a fan of instrumental music, you got like at least 4 instrumentals on there. But I think the whole album is terrific. And I think Snowy White being on there is a big bonus.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the record Wet Dream was released in September of 1978, and let's kind of back up a little bit and see what was happening in the Pink Floyd world prior to this record being released. We know that David Gilmour released a solo record, and if I'm not mistaken, it came out just a few months. It came out in June of 78, and it was David Gilmour's first solo record. It did sell better. It was certified gold. But before that, Nick Mason didn't have a solo record, but he did produce a record for The Damned called Music for Pleasure. And has anyone heard that?
I like that album.
I'm going to have to look that one up.
I couldn't. If someone says, which Pink Floyd member produced this record, you'll be like, I don't know. I don't hear anything, so I'm not sure exactly what his contribution was. And what about you, Russell?
I like the album. Like you said, you wouldn't be like, oh hey, Pink Floyd, I can tell. But Nick Mason, I think he was good behind the desk because he produced Rock Bottom by Robert Wyatt, and I think that's a great album. That's probably the best, my favorite thing that he produced. But I heard the Damned wanted Syd Barrett to produce their second album, and they tried to get in touch with him. And of course, Syd Barrett being Syd Barrett, no luck. And so they chose Nick Mason instead. And they didn't like the fact that Nick Mason wanted them to do overdubs and retakes and stuff
Mhm.
like that. So I don't think it was a very good relationship, but I think the album turned out pretty good. I like it.
I agree. I think it's a wonderful record full of little bitty songs. And so, and we'll look back at Wish You Were Here. Um, um, I think I missed Animals. Wish You Were Here was, oh yeah, Wish You Were Here was 75. The Dark Side of the Moon was March of 73. And Animals was 77. So Wish You Were Here 75, Animals 77. And then the following year, not only does Richard, but David release a solo record. And it's just interesting with the timeline of when these records were released. And we were sitting here talking to folks before we went live, and we spoke about how much creativity Richard had with Pink Floyd in the earlier records, that Dark Side of the Moon, and before, in his contributions, not only songwriting but also vocals. And so, but on Wish You Were Here and Animals and The Wall, you hear that. But, makes you wonder if any of these songs were presented to the band and said, "Hey guys, I got some songs." I kind of doubt it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, you don't really see him come back on vocals until Momentary Lapse of Reason. I have nothing to back this up, but it feels like he, it was, the beginning of him being kind of cut out of the band from a, clearly a Waters perspective, but it was. I'm trying to put into words the feeling of it. It when you realize that he just kind of stopped having the vocals and his influence kind of just went into the back burner. You just kind of it got weird because you went into more heavy just guitar solos and you're not getting that piano riff that you would get alongside of things.
Mm-hmm.
And while The Wall did have some of those piano pieces in it, they just didn't have the same feel. Then you get back into Momentary Lapse of Reason and Division Bell, and it comes right back, and that was nice.
He's there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think that. I don't think it's no. I think it's very well publicly known that Roger Waters became Pink Floyd, or he appeared to be Pink Floyd, and I just think The Wall. I think when they were working on The Wall, he says either Richard goes or I'm taking this Wall and making it a solo record, and yeah, it's just interesting, how it is, and because of that, Richard left. Now, was he fired? Did he leave? I don't know.
Never know.
He left. But he was brought back in to go on tour with him for The Wall. Yeah. And so when we talk about
that, worked out good for Richard because he was just considered a hired hand and not a full member of Pink Floyd when they toured The Wall. He actually made money on that tour. The other three guys lost money because it was so elaborate and expensive to put on. With him just being considered like a hired gun for the road, Richard actually made some money. So good for you, Richard. You went through a lot dealing with Roger.
And absolutely. And just think of all of the responsibilities he didn't have when they were touring. And hey, Richard, can we borrow some money? We need some lunch, something like that. So I just can't help but think that perhaps maybe not only Richard, but David just didn't present things because they perhaps would have felt like Roger was so in charge and he wouldn't have been open to receiving input and things like that. And so I understand from Richard's in some of the interviews that it wasn't a very pleasant experience and things like that. So with that said, I just like you said, we think about those wonderful tracks and how some of them could have been on a Pink Floyd record, and perhaps if they were presented in a different way or presented to the band, and everyone worked on the songs together, it would have been an entirely different song.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's really neat in the fact that, Richard, when he recorded this song, he brought together some of the musicians that were part of In the Flesh tour, which was the tour for Animals. And, Russell, you mentioned one of your favorite saxophone players, Mel Collins. And Mel
He's
Collins,
really good on this album. He gets to stretch out. He normally plays in like sort of commercial kind of way, but on the Wet Dream album, he gets to get a bit more jazzier, kind of almost like similar to how he played when he was with King Crimson. He gets to stretch out a bit, which is nice.
Yeah. And then, if David Gilmour couldn't be there, I couldn't think of anyone better to bring along than Snowy White. And it's interesting to see the Wall, the live footage of the Wall, and which was crudely recorded or crudely filmed, but yet you see Snowy White there just sharing it and cutting it up with David. So, Snowy did a wonderful job. I forget which song it is, but there's one song that has over a minute solo where Snowy just is making it happen. Yeah. And not to mention the other players with him, but it the more you learn, the more you listen, it really makes you appreciate the records before and after Richard Wright in respect to Pink Floyd. And you hear a little of this, you hear a little of that in Pink Floyd, and realizing, hey, that's the guy who taught Roger how to play some of those jazz progressions. Let's say hello to Myra. Hello, Myra. How are you? Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello.
Yeah.
I've heard, I don't know if it's true or not, but I've heard in the early days that Rick Wright would tune Sid's guitar and Roger's bass for them because they both didn't really have the best ears when it came to pitch and stuff.
Absolutely. So, and also the fact that I don't think it's a secret. I've heard David speak about it, that a lot of the bass on the recordings is actually David. Yeah. So that's why I think Adam Hart Mother is one of the best post Pink Floyd records there is.
Such a good album.
It is. And because you think about, hey, Roger did have contribution, but when you listen to it, that's David Gilmour on bass. Yeah. So there we go.
That's always puzzled me because live bootlegs I've heard, and when he did that In the Flesh tour in the early 2000s, Roger Waters is a good bass player, I think. I mean, he's not Jaco Pastorius or anything, but when it comes to just keeping a groove going, I've always thought he was good, but I guess he was kind of once he did his vocals or whatever, he just wanted to leave the studio, or after all the mixing and production and stuff, the last thing he wanted to do was lay down the bass tracks because he's more than capable of doing it. I mean, Piper at the Gates of Dawn, I think, has some great bass lines on it, and I would imagine that's Roger doing all of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So put your names up there, guys.
Oh, that's who I am. All right.
Yeah. You're exactly right. And Roger did play, and there is some good stuff on Piper. You're exactly right. I think it sounds different on Money than it does Piper, and I do know that David did play bass on Money for the recording. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the bass is so important on that song. I mean, it is so ingrained in that song.
Absolutely. Yeah. Exactly. Now, I had some questions that I was going to ask you guys about Wet Dream. Okay. So David had a very successful record with About Face. The songs sound completely different, and it's really neat. But David also brought in some other people to help him. Richard Wright produced Wet Dream, but if Richard had brought in Bob Ezrin, do you think the record would have sounded much more different? Do you think the record would have been more successful?
I don't think it would have been more successful because I think he was. I think the album was kind of set up to fail. With Animals was very popular, and then Gilmour coming out with his solo album being, a brighter shining star in Pink Floyd, and kind of like with the Nick Mason stuff, it just kind of, it's the Ringo Starr to, the Lennon McCartney. It's kind of hard to get people to shell out extra money for something that they're, and then it didn't get a lot of airplay on top of that, so didn't get in people's heads.
I definitely think the people who bought the record were people who enjoyed Pink Floyd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be that core group, and clearly, I'm one of those who's just going to buy every piece that comes out, like buying the Richard Wright Z album that came out last year. It's but outside of that, just that core group, it starts getting thin. Are people who are just I like Pink Floyd, or are they going to pick this up? And probably not, because they're not going to hear it on the radio. There's no song in it that really gets stuck in your head. There's nothing for a radio station to really get going on with it. So
I think Holiday would have been a wonderful radio song, especially for album-oriented rock.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's probably the most commercial for a radio station out of it, but Holiday and then Cat Cruise, but I don't see much. I just think it was set up to fail in that way. And by no intent, it just kind of happened that way. And so to go back to your question, if it had a different producer, perhaps a different producer would have said, we really need at least 2 songs. They're just going to be able to get airplay, really just set it up for airplay. The rest of the songs can be, whatever they need to be, but we need 2 songs that can be singles that can really, get people going on it. And it just, so.
It could have been the reason he didn't choose another producer. Russell, any thoughts on that yourself?
I hate to sound ridiculous with what I'm about to say, but I think the album was too proggy for that time and that era of Pink Floyd. It's a lot of instrumental, a lot of jazzy, fusiony sounding things, and I think people were that just was kind of fading out. There's punk and post-punk and new wave and all that stuff, and I think it was just like more of like a it reminds me a lot more of like the hardcore progressive rock bands like Caravan and Camel and those guys, more than it would like Run Like Hell or Mother or something like that. So I think it just, I don't know if it really had like great chances of being all that commercial anyway.
Oh yeah, I totally agree with everybody on that. Adam has a question. Do you fellows own any Pink Floyd bootlegs or vinyl or cassette, or do only weird Kiss fans like myself collect bootlegs? Yeah.
So me personally, I've got about, I don't know, 25 or 30 fan pressings of Pink Floyd on vinyl, no cassette, and I've got about maybe 130 to 150 fan pressing CDs.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to Ed McKay's one time and they had 2 full rows of Pink Floyd concert recordings and they were like $6 a piece. And I just went, get me a basket. I just threw them all in.
Yeah,
A
absolutely.
few of them ended up being duplicates and stuff. And I'm like, it wasn't even worth sorting through. There were so many, but I've been collecting them throughout the years. And it's hit or miss. Sometimes the sound quality is awful. Sometimes it's fantastic.
Right.
But it's always interesting to hear.
Absolutely.
Okay. Kiss Army member since 1988. Just have to throw that in. But I remember the Pink Floyd bootlegs. I have a few. The ones that stick out are for different reasons. One called The Amazing Pudding is from around 1970, and they actually do this really interesting jam of Sisyphus that goes into Roger Waters' screaming Scotsman vocals from several species of small furry animals gathered together in a cave and grooving with a pick. And then it goes into a bit of Narrow Way. It's not the best sounding bootleg, but the material on it is really cool. I have an Unfortunate Earl's Court one it's great if you can get it at the right speed, but mine's going so slow you'd have to tune your guitar down to D flat to play along with it. But it's got really good versions of the complete Shine On, just done as one whole song, and Raving and Drooling, and You Gotta Be Crazy. But mine, unfortunately, it's going real slow. So
one of my favorite things about the early, I like the earlier Pink Floyd fan pressings better than because later stuff, each concert they all sounded the same. I mean, there was really, if you got one thing from the Division Bell tour, you had them all, right? But you mentioned The Narrow Way, and that is one of my favorite songs to find concert recordings of because it's played so differently throughout. Even 5 nights later, it's a very different song, and it's like it morphed all the way through. And that is one of my absolute favorite songs to just listen to in concert. I don't like it on the album nearly as much as half the concert ones out there because it's a very different song, and I love that.
I'd like to point out real quick that Grantchester Meadows with Gilmore singing the chorus is way better than the studio version too. If I could just throw that in.
Absolutely. I have a lot of stuff, trade with friends and picked up stuff here and there. YouTube, I love YouTube in that respect. One of the CDs I have, someone gave me, has Pink Floyd, The Dark Side of the Moon rehearsals, and
It's a good one.
The reel-to-reel tape isn't working properly, and they stop and they start again, and I just love that. And then I was Alan C. Records. You guys may know him from Coffee and Vinyl. He and I were talking, and I said, "Man, you got to find Animals. Animals is so good when they perform that live." And so that was really neat. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely, man. You got something to bring us? Bring it on. Where's my thumb drive? Yeah. Myra was asking, what album did King Crimson use 3 drummers?
I don't know. I can only think of they had Jamie Muir on percussion with Bill Bruford for was it Lark's Tongues and Aspic?
That's what I was going to guess. Yes, that's what I was going to guess. Yeah. So,
but there's newer. There ones where everyone's playing a Chapman stick or a touch guitar, and there's like everything kind of sound. No offense, but everything kind of sounds like keyboards. Maybe they are using 3 drummers. I really don't know. To be honest with you,
comment on that?
I don't know King Crimson very well, so
There you go.
I gotta abstain from this one.
There you go. Hey, Kent, thanks for joining us. Kent agrees 100%. Too much yes sound. Yeah, so there you go. And let's say hello to Dennis, too. Hello, Dennis, too. Thanks for joining us tonight. Yeah.
It's a nice Telecaster.
What was that Anderson, Buford, Wakeman, and Howe Not Quite Yes album that came out in the
and
late mid-90s?
Absolutely. Hello, Anthony. Thanks for joining us tonight. Us music freaks, you better believe it. Yeah.
For sentimental reasons, I like that 90205. I always want to call it
90210.
Yeah, I do like that album though, because our what used to be a great rock radio station played Shoot High, Aim Low, and several songs a lot when I was a kid.
Album.
I thought they were great. I thought they were great songs.
Yeah,
I agree with you there. Absolutely. Yeah. So another question about Wet Dream. Do you think if Richard had collaborated with other musicians, other songwriters, it would have been a different album, a more successful album for him? David Gilmour reached out with Pete Townsend, Love on the Line. That's a Pete Townsend song.
Yeah.
David's first solo record, that was About Face. His first solo record, he reached out with Unicorn.
Unicorn, yep.
One of the best sounding songs on his first solo record is a Unicorn.
Yeah,
and from Unicorn too.
Yeah.
They couldn't think of a name for their second album, so it's just two. A little small on the Zeppelin thing. But Gilmour was producing Unicorn, so was that going back and forth. And my introduction to Unicorn was finding a promo 7-inch of was that Disco Dancer song that's on Unicorn too?
Mm-hmm.
And it says produced by David Gilmour. I'm like, what? All right, I got to buy this. So I listened to that, and then found a 12-inch of the whole Unicorn 2 album. Really enjoy it.
Absolutely. Whether Russell, your thoughts on another songwriter, another artist to collaborate with?
I'm trying to think. Do you like Z? I know you have both of their albums. Do you think that was a good collaborative effort with him?
I do, but it's it's the David Harris, but it's more of a David Harris album than.
Oh, okay.
And it was like 6 years later, right, Dan?
Yeah, it was 90 something. I mean, late 80s. Hold on. That one was 84.
84, yes.
Yeah. And then they took they redid it last year and called it Identity 2019, The Quest for More Money.
If it had come my way, I could have walked in the door, if I had been somewhere and saw it for sale, I probably would have picked it up. But I've never go online and find it. I gotta have it.
That was a rough one to find. That was hard to find. The CD, by the way, is signed. But
that's really
signed by David Harris.
By David Harris, because not posthumously signed by Richard Wright.
Unfortunately,
yeah. But it's one of those. It took me a while to hunt down a copy. I never found one in a store, and I ended up buying it online.
Exactly.
So it's rare. Doesn't mean it's valuable, but it's rare.
Yeah. And I've listened to it online, and I may have a digital copy somewhere, and I'm okay with that. If I happen to find one at a store, or if one comes in the door, I probably would pick it up.
Yeah, but remember, you got a record store owner here saying he's never seen one walk through the door, so it tells you it's not a common record.
Not at all. Yeah, but there's a lot of records that are rare. That doesn't mean that they're rare valuable.
Yeah. And it's the Z album cover is about as bland as you could get. I mean, it looks like when I first saw it, I thought it was a 12-inch single.
Exactly.
Yeah, the '80s were a lot of '80s stuff was into like the just very minimalist art, like the King Crimson albums that came out around that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beat and Three of a Perfect Pair. A lot of stuff, just very minimal.
Yeah, but they were gorgeous. The primary colors, yes, they were gorgeous. Wasn't Z more popular in Germany though, Dan?
Yeah, I think so. But
And so
maybe it's easy to find copies over there.
Absolutely, but the fact that the record looks a little more fitting for German culture versus American culture, or
I can see that.
UK culture. Yeah, absolutely.
But oftentimes for situations like that, they do different album covers, and
that is true. Yeah,
and that becomes a nightmare for the collector too.
Yeah, if you're into that, yeah.
Oh my gosh, just look up all the different versions of the Wish You Were Here album cover.
Yes.
There's this one, there's this one Al Stewart album I'm trying to think of that has at least 3 different covers. One of them has Ginger Gilmore. Ginger Gilmore, David's wife, is the star of that cover. I'm trying to think of what it's called. A Sign of the Times or something like that, maybe.
Al
No,
Stewart?
that's a Prince album. I'm sorry, but
yeah. Does Pink Floyd sound like Brian Eno, or does Brian Eno sound like Pink Floyd?
Why?
That's a good question, Myra. Does Pink Floyd sound like Brian Eno, or is...
I think they were both fond of the same kind of synthesizers.
Or did they both sound like Alan Parsons?
I would say Brian sounds a little more like Floyd, but then again, Brian went this way, and Pink Floyd kind of went this way, and hey, yeah, but they both are, yeah. I love Miss Amina. Let's see, they rag out for money for artwork.
A pregnant ran out of money.
They ran out of money for artwork. There you go.
We got $8.73 to make this album cover.
Your album cover budget is Well, have you guys ever heard early Tangerine Dream? That sounds a lot like Pink Floyd, like More and Saucer Full of Secrets era Pink Floyd.
Yeah,
I was thinking Tangerine Dream was an active band, and those dudes, I'll probably butcher their names, Klaus Schultz and Edgar Froese, they did solo albums while the band was still a band, and I kind of wish Rick and David would have done that at least a couple of more times in the 70s, because there was sort of long stretches of no Pink Floyd. I know they were touring like crazy, but it would have been cool to have another Richard Wright 70s solo album.
Absolutely, and absolutely. Some people say we did, but it came a little later. So Richard Wright loved to sell, and so when we look at the album cover, we see that a lot. Richard said that he loves peace. He said that he loves being in a peaceful environment. He loves being around peaceful people, and that was one of the reasons he enjoyed being around David and enjoyed being around Nick for that reason there.
Yeah, I can see that.
And
can we say that Wet Dream has moments of yacht rock to it too? A little bit of yacht rock here and there. It's a very relaxing, mellow album.
Yeah, well, definitely the cover reflects that. But this is a sailboat, and yeah. So there you go. I also think it's a crazy image in the fact that it looks like you're diving off the edge of the swimming pool, and you're in the ocean, and there's your boat, there's your sailboat, and so yeah. So it's just.
Does anyone think maybe the title was a turnoff to certain people?
That could be.
I was just thinking about that. Yeah. It's weird to mention an album called Wet Dream. Not that I'm some sort of prude or anything, but
it does make sense. And you wonder if it was intentional or unintentional. I mean, it's a pretty common term.
Yeah.
I wish there was more information and more interviews with Richard, but There just wasn't very much, and if you think about it, there wasn't very much of Pink Floyd interviewing in the '70s. They were kind of quiet, which is totally okay with me. Let's see what we say here. Myra says no. He didn't just say Alan Parsons. No,
I knew that would get somebody.
I stand by Tales of Mystery and Imagination as being a great album. I do like that one a lot.
Thanks for joining us. The cover was Egyptian looking, very. It was, Myra. You're exactly right. Illuminati. Yeah. So was Prince. But anyway, that's a different story. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And, whether he collaborated or not, I think he wrote a record that was totally him. And I think he was putting out there what he wanted without the thought of like, hey, I'm going to put out a record and I'm going to try to have a hit. I'm going to try to tour. I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to do that. He probably had plenty of money to release it, but at the same time, Columbia came in and says, here you go, sir. And that was really neat. I would imagine the money he made from this record, he went and bought another boat. What do you think?
Or a car.
And was Richard the car guy? It was always Nick Mason that was a car guy.
He was into Persian car. Wasn't Richard Wright into collecting Persian rugs too? I remember reading that.
Nick Mason. Sorry.
Yeah, Nick Mason was the car guy.
Pull up my
they probably all liked the finer things that being a multimillionaire could.
Who owned the plane that they gave away for the 1987 tour? Was that who was the pilot? Which one of them owned the plane that they gave it away a jet plane as a thing when was it either Momentary Lapse or Division Bell came out?
It was Momentary Lapse. I think it was Dave and Nick both were into flying.
Yeah.
And the Pink Floyd
was one of the songs.
Yeah, the Pink Floyd, they would practice in airplane hangars, and they would set up their elaborate stage and all the technical things, and they would just practice there, which was awesome. And so maybe they were like, we're coming out here, we might as well learn how to fly. I have no idea, but when I saw the Pink Floyd live, it was Momentary Lapse of Reason, and there was footage. And does that show up on
later years?
Does that show up on the live Delicate Sound? Do we see
the boat, the rowing footage definitely does.
Oh my gosh! When that
in Learning to Fly, there's that footage.
Yeah, when I saw the Pink Floyd live, and then all of a sudden it went underwater. Oh my god! The sound was
fantastic.
It was just like,
oh my goodness, it was just amazing.
I mean, you were expecting it, but you weren't expecting it to be that magnitude, and it would be that powerful that you're like,
that really was just amazing and so perfectly timed, and so
oh my gosh,
the later years box set comes with those videos just that they would project up on the screen, but just as videos, so you could just watch them. And
really,
so when you when you watch the tours, or when you went to a tour, you only saw a little bit of it because you're looking all around, and and the camera's cutting here and there if you're watching a video. So it's really cool to have those.
So when you're watching that and you see the visuals, do you also hear the music?
I will have to check because I just got the box set about a week or so ago.
Well, you remember you and I spoke about that about a year ago. I was like, I sure would like to see just that only. Yes, they heard me.
Yeah.
I thought Pink Floyd The Wall, the movie, was awesome, but I had to put a blue dragon on my
Well, buying space brings up an excellent point. The better living through chemistry aspect is always there with Pink Floyd.
Oh.
But I've heard of people going to see them like during the Momentary Lapse of Reason tour, after I'd have been scared to death, man. That would have just been so overwhelming. No,
Yeah.
thank you. I would have just had a strong cup of coffee and kept it at that.
I remember being at the Pink Floyd show, and it was before it started, and I was like, I'm going to go to the bathroom, so I won't have to go during the show. Well, I went to the bathroom. This was at Dean Smith. We called it the Dean Dome Center.
Yeah,
And-
when I lived in Raleigh, they called it the Dean Dome.
Yeah.
Oh,
And so I went to the bathroom. I could have had all sorts of drugs. People were trying to sell me drugs in the bathroom. So that was really cool.
You can only
Hey,
imagine.
good evening. Good evening, Harry. Thanks for joining us.
Harry.
What's up, Harry?
Oh, wrong one.
But I would like to say that, like the Grateful Dead, a lot of people think you have to be just completely drugged out to enjoy them. Not true. Not true at
Absolutely not
all.
true.
Oh, absolutely.
It's an unfortunate stereotype,
Mhm.
but I mean, hey, if you got them, take them. But I'm sorry.
Well,
No,
I'm
but
a
I
huge
mean, I was
Dead
a fan of both. I was a fan of the Dead and Floyd way before I was even old enough to be around that kind of stuff. So
Well, I'm a huge Grateful Dead fan, huge Pink Floyd fan. Never done any drugs at all.
There you go.
And thoroughly enjoy their music. Just have a wonderful time.
Well, in an interview, someone asked Rick if drugs was part of the songwriting. Was drugs part of, and Rick says, I took drugs one time and I couldn't even play the piano. So no, I don't. No, not for us. But, you know, of course,
yeah,
sad, different story.
Yeah.
You gotta like musicians. That's all I'm Grateful Dead like. Yeah. You gotta like good musicians. That's all. I'm Grateful Dead. Like them or not, they're great musicians. They are great musicians. Absolutely, Harry. I totally agree with you on that statement. Have any of you guys heard of David Hendershot?
I have in Buying Space.
I have not. Dan?
No. I have not.
David Hendershot.
But yeah, so is David Hendershot, is there a Pink Floyd relationship, or are they what's
Psychedelic.
yeah.
Some
I just did a quick internet, and 100 people show up. Ever saw Pink Floyd on weed? I have. I haven't.
You ever watch?
I would have fallen
I've
asleep.
got a bike on weed.
He is the lead singer of Glass Camels.
Glass
Oh,
Camels.
Oh, okay.
I have heard of
They must be Grateful Dead related in some way. Blues for Allah has a song, Glass Camels, and what is it called? Glass Camels
Yeah.
and drugs. No, I'm sorry. Just kidding.
wow! Thanks, Myra. We'll have to check them out. Yeah, I'll put it up on the internet so I can look at that later.
I have to say that's one of my favorite studio Grateful Dead albums. Is Blues for Allah.
Blues
I
for
love
Allah.
that album.
He was the
Good
lead singer of
album.
Glass Camels. Okay, great. So, Harry, were you drunk or the band was drunk?
Yeah, sandcastles and glass camels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a Pink Floyd tribute band?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't. I haven't seen any tribute bands yet. There's one called the Dark Star Orchestra around here that's supposed to be really good, but they play at a place. Well, no one plays anymore currently. But,
So is the Dark Star you referred to, Russell, is that Pink Floyd or Grateful Dead?
Yeah, that's Grateful Dead.
Grateful Dead. They supposedly pick. They're so into doing it. They supposedly pick certain shows, like say Raleigh, North Carolina, March 7th, 1973, and do that whole show.
Oh yeah, there you go. I went to go
That's
see
pretty
the
cool.
Australian Floyd, and they
Mm.
got 15 minutes into it, and I just had to get up and leave. I couldn't let it mess with my memories. Yeah, but I've seen Dark Star, and they are wonderful.
Yeah, Dark Star's great.
And then also, Adam,
Okay.
does Flaming Lips count? They are a dead cover band, been playing a couple of decades. Oh, that's very cool. Yeah. There was a Pink Floyd tribute band in my town that played in an old theater. And shame on me for not going. Shame on you, Harry. They could have been drunk. Or you could have been drunk. Yeah. Either way. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh, I have to say, when I was about 13 or 14, I saw Hank Williams Jr. live at the Richmond Coliseum, and he was definitely drunk. So I have seen. I don't know if I've been drunk at a concert, but I did see a drunk concert, and that would be Bo Cephas back in 1990, probably.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. One thing about Wet Dream is that it was self-produced, and I would love to have heard Rick produce some things for Pink Floyd. And even though he was involved in early production, I'd love to have seen it, just him produce it only. I would love to hear his version of Pink Floyd. I would love to have heard that. Yeah.
Another thing I'd like to say about Rick Wright is that he's all over my favorite Syd Barrett solo album, the one with all the bugs on the cover, the one just called Barrett.
Yeah, just called Barrett. Yeah,
That's got Gilmore on it too, so that's another almost Pink Floyd
Gilmore
album.
produced that one, right?
Yeah, and Richard Wright is on just about every song playing keyboard. So I love it.
They were trying to set him up with some more money, I believe, like trying to help him out.
Right.
Really more help his mother out than anything else.
Yeah. Adam says, I know some tribute bands sound better than the actual bands at this point.
I've heard that.
And
the important thing is that at this point.
Yeah, at this point.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting that I've watched some Pink Floyd tribute bands like Brit Floyd, and I've actually seen some footage with David Gilmour sitting in the audience. And then there's been times that Guy Pratt would hop on stage and play some bass, and stuff like that. But they have the visuals, and the visuals are very much the same as the Pink Floyd, and even the sound effects. But I think when I listen, and I'm sure you guys probably have a copy of The Dark Side of the Moon by the Flaming Lips.
Flaming Lips, yeah.
I love their versions of the sound effects. And
that's a rough album for me, man.
I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
It's funny. I think they were drunk at the time. I found out something the other day that I never knew. It's also full of secrets was in between Metal and Dark Side of the Moon. I never knew that, or did I dream it? Yeah. There is a record called Saucer Full of Secrets, and it is very good, Harry. And
that's
oh wow.
Yeah.
So that's not good at all, but is it collectible? Is it just like a good collector's piece?
Maybe. It's cool vinyl though, because the vinyl is clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, did you guys ever think this? On the back cover of Wish You Were Here, that faceless guy's holding out a clear vinyl. I used to think that there was clear vinyl Wish You Were Here's, and I just was never lucky enough to find one.
There you go. Oops.
No, he's holding the Flaming Lips album. That was a record store release, about 4 or 5 years ago, Kurt?
Yeah. Harry says, oops, I'm obscured by clouds. Yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah, Harry Humstone.
Fantastic.
That has one of my favorite Rick Wright songs on it. Stay. Excellent song.
That song is just like melted butter. I mean, it is just amazing. It's just such a melodic song. Just wonderful.
Yeah. I'm gonna show this record, folks. This is what we're gonna talk about next week. This is a soundtrack
Oh,
from
nice.
Oh yeah.
War, and
Mhm.
when I pulled Richard.
I'm
I
a
pulled,
big fan of.
Love that album.
yeah.
I actually do own a copy of this. First, I've got a bike where I have a physical copy of something.
Hey, there
I
we go.
can't wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's
Oh,
the
the
back
Nile.
of it.
I love the Nile song. It's just so not Pink Floyd and Pink Floyd at the same time.
Mhm.
Green is the
uh,
color.
Green is the color, Cymbeline. I mean, just
Yeah.
there's such good stuff on there, and it moves all over the place. It has continuity, and that is a tough thing to
Love
do.
that.
Yeah.
Love that one.
So the Pink Floyd tribute band I was in, the guy who started it, his name was Matt, and
Mhm.
we just focused on non-radio Pink Floyd. So we played Cymbeline, we played
So money over and over.
Oh, that's cool.
again.
I said so money
Money.
over and over and over.
Yep, no money.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was really neat. And so if you guys get a chance, please listen to more. Do we have to watch the movie? Ever sing Dark Side with the Wizard of Oz?
My second date with my wife was to go see that at the Carolina Theater in Greensboro.
Really? Yeah.
Yep.
I've never.
And about a little past halfway through the movie, she turns to me and goes, it's kind of repetitive. I feel like I've heard this song already. And I'm like, yeah, because they started the album over.
Yeah, you just have to you have to play it 2 or 3 times, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I've never popped it on. What I've done is went to YouTube and watch it. And when it repeated, I was like, okay, I've done it, folks. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
heard
matches
it.
up a couple times where it's kind of cool, but it's,
Yeah.
it's more novelty. It's more about the theory than the reality.
It's more fun to sync it with 2001: A Space Oddity. Playing it backwards, I heard sounds like Ozzy. Yeah. Hey, Swamp Picker, thanks for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. Hey, Mr. Buys a Lot, did you get my Instagram message? Where's my phone? Oh, my phone fell on the floor earlier. I got the best phone. It's going to break one. I'll check it, sir. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll confess to being around 10 or 11 years old and taking the belt off of a J.C. Penney record player and listening to some Led Zeppelin and Beatles stuff from the White Album backwards. That's the only time I've done that.
Absolutely. So Mr. Buys a Lot, his name is Brian. Brian, aren't you originally from North Carolina? Are you from Raleigh? Where in North Carolina are you from? So I have at least 4 Instagram accounts. So I would put them all right now. Yeah, absolutely. It's not there. I got one left, folks. I'm sorry. Hold you guys up.
Asheboro, North Carolina.
Asheville? Ashboro?
Asheboro.
Oh, my stars.
Yeah, it's right up the road.
So I used to go to Ashboro. I sure did.
My mom lives in
Ashboro. Oh, very cool. Yeah. Freaking all stars in here. Absolutely. You know it. Mr. Buys a Lot, I'm going to check when I get off here. Has to be good line. He's trapped. He's trying to figure out how to get out of here. These guys are all Carolina rockers. Come on down. Come on down. You can join us too. So yeah. So anyway, any other thoughts of Wet Dream? I enjoy listening to it. I have it on my iMac, and I probably play it 2 or 3 times a month, and so I enjoy listening to it a lot. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I hadn't listened to it in quite a while till you talked about last week, so I pulled out and spun it 5 or 6 times, and it was just neat getting to hear it again, and it'd been probably 3 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know a lot about backmasking, but I will say when it sounds like he's saying It's fun to smoke marijuana when you play the chorus of another one by Desmond.
I've heard that before.
Yeah.
See, now
Did
you can probably
they
find
spit
all
dust?
that stuff on YouTube and not worry about ruining your stylus or your
Yeah.
record.
Sure.
Like
I just
I
want
am
to
not
say
going to
that,
play record backwards with my stylist.
Yeah,
Don't say it out
I'm
loud
not
if you know it.
11 anymore.
Don't say it out loud if you know it, guys. But Pink Floyd has at least one backward masking song. And
I
so
know it.
when you play it forward, it goes devil. And but when you play it backwards, it has a song. So I'm gonna leave that with you guys to explore a little bit. Yeah. There's a great record auction tomorrow with a Beatles butcher album and some rare jazz. Where?
Oh,
What
nice.
is happening? Yeah. At 11 o'clock, I'm going to yodel when the moon comes over the mountain. Oh, cool. You're going live. I can't wait to see that. Watch out. Don't let Kiss take you away. You heard what happened to that guy earlier this week. Yeah. I thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're right at an hour. And let's see what Anthony says. I'm picking you 11270s 45 Saturday on Facebook Marketplace you're picking something up. Okay, good. So Anthony likes to do the voice to text, and so there we go. Second hour, I'll talk about Black Sabbath and what they did to America.
I love Black Sabbath too, I have to admit.
And
Crazy Train.
Yeah, absolutely. And then War Pigs, Harry. Yeah. And
Never played any Black Sabbath backwards. I didn't want to go into that sort of purgatory land that you might be sent to for doing that.
Absolutely. I like to encourage everyone to listen to more this week so we can talk about it next week.
Awesome
That one I
album,
do
everyone.
listen to several times a week already, so I'll be
I don't
good.
have a digital copy, Dan.
We'll have to see about that.
Yeah, and I think I have it on VHS, don't I?
Yep, I think yours is sealed.
I can't open it. I can't. Even though I have a wonderful VHS player. So Brian, Mr. Buys a lot. Anagata Davida. No, it's Tell Edith I Love Her. It was a fun episode. Thank you so much for being here. But Mr. Buys a lot, I'm going to give you my email address right here in the chat. Oh, I guess before we leave, we should talk a little bit about Record Store Day this year. Record Store Day 2020, and it's going to be divided into 3 Record Store Day drops. And for Record Store Day this year, this is something to be on the lookout for. Dan, would you like to share everybody what we can
so there's
look out for?
There's a Nick Mason Saucer Full of Secrets band tour album. There's a Roger Waters, The Wall Live in Berlin, and then Pink Floyd in, was it 2007, singing Arnold Lane.
Oh, nice.
So three Floyd and Floyd related items this year, which is nice. I guess they ran out of mono stuff to reissue.
Absolutely, and those are I want a mono more, but that's okay. Yeah. And then of course I hope I can get at least one of those, and if we can talk about that the following week, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, it'd be excellent. Yeah.
And if I happen to have some before, we can talk about it. But it's okay. So get out and support your local record store. Now these records are going to be limited. There weren't that many pressed, and plus the fact that a lot of people go out for Record Store Day, so it might be one of those things you might want to check with your Record Store Day and say, what are the rules this year? Can we line up in advance? Are you doing a lottery? What's going on here? We want to know how it's going to happen. Okay. And so there you go. And any final words, Russell?
I think that Wet Dream is a terrific album. I've enjoyed listening to it. I think it's good to have a 70s Richard Wright solo album. His voice and his playing is great. He put a nice band behind him, including the great Snowy White on lead guitar, and if you just want to mellow out and just chill, put on Wet Dream and just, like Boston said, close your eyes and drift away.
There you go. Thank you, Harry. Yeah. Any final words, Dan?
Yeah, well, I agree with that. It was nice getting to revisit an album that I'd kind of put on the shelf a while ago and kind of forgotten about. And I really appreciate getting to pull it out, think about it again. Really made me think because it's, you know, it's Pink Floyd but different, and I really enjoyed that. Again, Cat Cruise I thought was the most Pink Floyd like, and it was nice that there was so much difference. And I think Richard Wright seemed to just have fun with the album instead of being in the constraints of everything has to be exactly the way say Roger wants it.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And for me, I'm not going to say that your Pink Floyd discography is going to be incomplete with a Wet Dream, but if you add that, it just makes your Pink Floyd library even better. So there we go. Yeah,
Good point.
That's a good way of putting it.
yeah, absolutely. Well, until next week, I want to thank everybody for joining. Russell, Dan, and everyone out there.
Thank you, everybody.
We'll be back next Thursday night at 9:30. I'll be in Raleigh, so I don't have to drive in the torrential rains and get my hair wet. And so we'll be talking about more. Okay.
Excellent.
Everybody, have a good night. Thank you much. Bye.